All right, let's talk about the insane story of Among Us. This is a game that went from being completely invisible to, well, global domination in just a few weeks. It's the story of how a tiny indie game accidentally took over the entire world. And trust me, the key word here is accidentally.
And I mean that literally. This game was on life support. It was basically moments away from being unplugged and just forgotten. The creators were so ready to pull the plug for good. So what on earth happened? How does a game that absolutely nobody cared about for 2 solid years suddenly become this global phenomenon that's played by hundreds of millions of people? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve right now.
To really understand the explosion, you first have to understand the silence. Because for 2 very long years, this game was an absolute ghost town.
I mean, this timeline is just brutal. It launches in 2018 to nothing. Crickets. All through 2019, still nothing. By early 2020, the developers over at Innersloth were pretty much planning its funeral.
And the weirdest part is, the core idea was always brilliant. It's what's called a social deduction game. Think of it like a whodunit on a spaceship. You've got a crew trying to do these simple tasks, but there are 1 or 2 secret imposters trying to, murder everyone without getting caught. It's all about trust, paranoia, and most importantly, spectacular lies.
But being brilliant didn't matter one bit. Just look at this number, 30 to 50 daily players. That's not a player base, that's a small family reunion. The developers probably knew every single one of those players by name.
And right here, this is where the story should have ended. After 2 years of pouring their hearts into a project with absolutely no return, they were just done, emotionally exhausted, ready to move on. They were literally about to shut the servers down for good. But then, 2020 happened, and a wild combination of global events created the single greatest marketing campaign that money could never, ever buy. It was truly the perfect storm. So, it all started with the global lockdowns. Everyone was stuck at home, feeling isolated, and just desperate for any kind of social connection. Then, at that exact moment, a few really influential streamers on Twitch just randomly stumbled upon this forgotten little game. And that, right there, was the spark.
So the big question is, why this game? Well, because it was perfectly designed for that moment in time. It was simple enough for anyone to just pick up and play, it was incredibly fun to watch other people play, and most importantly, it was all about that social drama. Lying to your friends, betrayal, these hilarious arguments. It was the social fix everyone was missing. And what happened next wasn't just growth. No, it was a full-blown, completely uncontrolled explosion of popularity that absolutely nobody, especially the creators, ever saw coming. At first, it was just a confusing blip on the radar. The developers logged on one day and saw 1,000 new players. 1,000. They must have been thinking, where did they come from? Is this a server bug? But nope, it wasn't a bug. That 1,000 quickly turned into 10,000, then 100,000, and within a single week, 1 million people were playing this game. The servers were melting, the team was scrambling, that little family reunion had suddenly turned into a global stadium. And at its peak, this was the reality. By the end of 2020, Among Us had 500 million players. Let that sink in. It wasn't just a popular game. For a while there, it was the most popular game on planet Earth, from 50 players to 500 million. It's just mind-blowing. So this tiny 3-person team had to pivot instantly. All their other plans for new games, thrown right out the window. Their entire focus became just trying to keep this accidental juggernaut from collapsing under its own weight. And the game's influence went way beyond just downloads. It actually changed the way we talk. The word sus escaped the game and basically infected global culture. You heard it in memes on TV, even from politicians trying to sound cool. It was absolutely everywhere. So, look, this isn't just some crazy story about a video game. There are some really powerful, real-world lessons in here about success, about timing, and yeah, about luck.
First and foremost, timing is everything. The game itself didn't change between 2018 and 2020. It was the same simple, clever little game, but the world changed. See, the right product at the wrong time is still the wrong product, but the right product at the perfect time, that's a phenomenon.
The second lesson is all about power. Among Us had a marketing budget of exactly $0. Its success was driven entirely by just a handful of creators on Twitch and YouTube. They became the kingmakers.
It just proves that in today's world, authentic influence from a real person can beat a giant corporate ad campaign every single time.
And maybe this is the most important takeaway of all: perseverance. Just think about it. If the developers had given up just 1 month earlier, if they'd actually deleted the game like they planned, this story wouldn't even exist. Sometimes your idea isn't bad, it's just early.
This really just sums it all up, doesn't it? From the outside, the rise of Among Us looks like this stroke of genius, like a perfectly executed plan. But the reality was 2 years of silence, frustration, and near failure that nobody ever saw. So that leaves us with one final thought. We've all got them, right? Projects or ideas we've given up on. But what if they aren't actually dead? What if they're just waiting for their 2020? What's out there right now, just waiting for its perfect storm?